Recently, the topic of the county's $54 million cash and investment accounts has come up at the BOC meetings. In light of the general perception that the county is in dire straits, especially with the possible loss of federal payments through the Secure Rural Schools program, I have asked Randy Sanne to first explain his budget background and then share his overview of these funds. Government budgets. So Randy, go for it.
Well, I joined the military in 1982, and my first assignment was in Ramstein, Germany. It was right after a major attack on the base that I was at, and I got a real good view of how budgets can be turned to fit exactly what they need to do. This base had really just kind of gone along and taken care of what they wanted when they wanted. And after this attack, they redirected themselves and really started taking care of what needed to be taken care of. And they revisited their budgets, and everyone got together and started meeting the needs instead of just the desires. And the more that I got into it, the branch of service that I was in, I had an opportunity when I was reassigned and stationed in Texas to get into the accounting and admin branch of the fuels of the supply division. And I became the NCOIC of accounting admin because of my desire, my interest in accounting and education in accounting at the time, and my interest in the budget process. I'd like to start by just talking just really quickly about what you discussed about the $54 million, and I believe the best way to describe that is that I believe that it incorporates everything that's cash available, including the small amounts that might be held in each department, all the way through all the checking accounts and everything else. And the ones that we know, then to go back to your question, the ones that we know are absolutely available to us to use are the first two that I've listed as general funds and forest funds. We know for a fact that those funds are available to operate the general fund. And the general fund is essentially the day-to-day operating fund for everything that isn't mandated and budgeted, financed through the state or federal government. And so on the website, on the county website, it gives a breakdown of the past 11 months, with 2 months that didn't download for some reason. The past 11 months monthly financial statements, monthly receipts and expenditures, as well as balances. And so from those monthly statements, I've taken the fund balances for the general fund and for the forest fund. And when you combine the two of them, you see that it ranges anywhere from from a low of, excluding June and July, a low of $15 million to a high of $23.5 million that are usable for those exact purposes. And that doesn't even include the monies that may or may not be restricted for other mandated services.
Right. Okay. And you also did a little analysis, I think, of what it costs the county to operate on a monthly basis.
Yes, and again, based primarily on these balances, when you take the 11-month snapshot, and June and July weren't available for whatever reason, but the numbers are still there. The balances before and after are still there, so you can a person could assume that maybe it got down to $6 million in June, and then had a sizable amount of money. There were some deferred were put back into the general. But by looking at the differences high and low, the average monthly expenditure for the general is about $640,000 a month.
Okay.
And that is the amount of drawdown from these funds to operate all of the otherwise unfunded activities, whether it be the clerk's office or the commissioners, those kind of operations that aren't funded from state levels.
How much of that would you say is available? Well, obviously all of it's available. How much of it is, for lack of a better term, and I want to be careful with this word, as a reserve?
Well, to err on the side of caution, I would say that in looking at the combined monthly balances, May, for example, goes down to about $15 million. So to err on the side of caution, I would say that at any given time, we have probably a minimum of $15 million that are available.
Okay.
And that way, for my own comfort level, I would say that we're looking at a $15 million surplus is not the right word.
Right.
But it comes out of my mouth easier than anything. It's a source of revenue that's available, I would believe, in excess of our monthly and yearly operating needs.
Okay. If, as I understand it, these funds are effectively sitting, millions of dollars are sitting in an account, earning very little interest, and they're not being used. They're almost being hoarded in the mattress, so to speak. Let's talk about what's the potential for those funds.
Well, again, they are being held in accounts, in multiple accounts that total a significant amount of money, as you said, and to understand exactly what could be done with them, I think is something that's extremely important to the people of all the citizens, and it is extremely important to me. To say exactly what our opportunities or our limitations are with all of these monies, I'm not prepared to say that yet, but I am prepared to say that I would really want to know and want to make the best use of those funds. I do believe that we're acting right now as if we're kind of tucking it under the mattress, and that's not doing us any good. I believe that we should continue to fund the services that we have now, establish what we have now as the baseline, and ensure that the monies that are available to us immediately are employed to make sure that those service levels are held up. And sitting in short-term, low-interest-bearing accounts probably isn't the best way. And would it be possible then for us to use some of this money to purchase additional forest lands? Would it be possible for us to invest in new energy opportunities? As much participation from everyone in this county as is humanly possible to come up with good, solid alternatives for the future, and not act on a whim or act out of desperation. We have heard several times about counties around us, directly south of us, that are prepared to become insolvent. And I think what I'm trying to we're not there yet. And I believe that we have an opportunity to act smartly while still supporting all of the current services.
I agree with that. I don't think we want to do a rush to judgment. We've seen the consequences of that in the past. And obviously, somebody's done something right that the county is lucky enough to have these funds available to it at all. However, if there's no plan to use these funds, they may as well not be available to us. So,
Agreed. And whether or not I've conveyed that here, I hope that I have. We do have to use, we do have to employ smarter plans with this, and not just sit on it and hope that everything changes, or that
to invest in renewable energy and feed that power back to the national grid. And I believe it's a population of 4,200 people, and they were in pretty dire straits, and they are now very profitable. They have a very low unemployment rate. People have good jobs, and it worked for them. It's worked for other communities in Europe and even some communities in the United States and Iowa. And certainly Coos County could employ certain techniques like that: community-owned forests, community-owned energy, community-owned agriculture. I think there's a lot that could be done with wise stewardship, but obviously the county as a whole has to understand that these funds are there, how they operate, and then come together to develop a plan. And I would hope that we can spark that conversation just by making people aware of this information.
I think the word community speaks for itself. I think that you've hit right on it. That's what we need. We need total community involvement. We need ideas like those. I believe that there's, in line with what you were just discussing there, I believe there's even a town in Colorado that's done something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know to what extent, but we're a county of significant resources, and I believe that timber and logging, harvesting of timber is always going to be a key asset. There's always going to be a terrific asset to this county and to the state. I believe that construction is going to come back. I believe that timber prices will rebound. Will they ever hit the highs that they were? Probably not. But that's an opportunity for us to realize that we can't put all of our eggs in one basket, and we're certainly not going to solve. This has been proven in many different business models. You simply can't flood the market with your product and hope that it expect it to hold its back.
And I know I beat on the energy horse a lot, but energy is an essential service. You can't cut trees, you can't mill trees, you can't grow anything, you can't do commerce, you can't take anything to market without energy. And when you import energy like we do here in Coos County, you export dollars that are no longer invested here. If you can produce your own energy locally, like some of these other communities have learned to do, then those dollars stay here, and they're reinvested locally, and they do produce long-term family wage jobs. So that's my trumpet for today.
Well, and then I'll agree with you one more time. In my time with Weyerhaeuser Springfield, we created our own energy from our steam plants, and we had turbine generators. And those turbine generators, we never produced enough energy to run our plant. But this is perhaps a small example of the way that producing our own energy benefited the company. We couldn't produce enough energy to run our own plants, so we bought energy off the grid. And then the energy that we produced went back into the grid. And of course, our warehouser purchased at a commercial rate and sold back at a residential rate.
Right.
And one of the last checks that was presented to the warehouser for prior to the layoff that affected a number of us was in excess of $3 million for a quarter.
Wow.
And
the key issue here is that energy, it's market driven only to the extent that rates go up as demand goes up, but rates don't go down. So, it's not subject to the same market vagaries because it's an essential service. People are always going to want that. They're going to have to pay their bill every month, and energy is, if it wasn't a great commodity, there wouldn't be so many investor-owned utilities out there in the industry. So